Hey folks, JovanHuttonPulitzer here, and let's talk about what's the difference between a technology incubator, a technology accelerator, and a technology generator. You've heard some of these terms being bandied around, but have you ever just been curious about what do all these different terms mean? Well, let's take a look at the differences between incubators. Most people know that incubators is kind of like a business incubator, and they may assist entrepreneurs, etc. But let's take a look at some of the stats from these different ventures so you might be able to decide what's the best for you. Take a look at this. Now, if you look at this, an incubator versus an accelerator. What is the main difference? Now, an incubator is usually early stage founders, and they're focused on a sector and still recruiting their founding team. Now, an accelerator is, instead of being early focused on the founders, means they actually have something. They're technology focused versus apps or bots, cloud-based software, also a team of 2 or 3. But the main differences you need to see is the duration, right? What's the difference between the incubator? Well, it's actually a lease that's an average up to 2 years. The accelerator is exactly what it sounds like, is to accelerate the process exceptionally fast. Now, who doesn't want to accelerate their business process exceptionally fast? That's when it comes to being a business, you want to actually be able to accelerate your business absolutely as fast as you can. That's the name of the game in business. You want to turn it into something that inherently is valuable to you. So let's take a look at these differences, okay? And so to help you decide what is best for you, is it an incubator, is it an accelerator, or is it a generator? Now, like I said, a technology incubator is kind of where you're going to be coddled like an incubator. Incubator, hatching eggs when you think of an incubator. The key here is, just because an egg's in an incubator does not mean it's a fertile egg, does not mean it's going to hatch. So the goal in an incubator is to hatch that into a viable business. Now, here's something you might want to know, that the survival rate of startups that have come out of incubators have been reported as high as 92%. That number is questionable because it can fly to the other end of the extreme, and people say that only 2 or 3% of the businesses survive that come out of incubators. So the jury's still out on that. Now, a startup accelerator, here's the difference. A startup accelerator supports early stage companies, and what they're going to do is they're going to give you education, mentorship, etc. The difference is, it's kind of like the lottery. You have to apply for a membership, and they look through it, and if you qualify, they will allow you to join their club and accelerate your business. Now, one of the most famous ones, of course, is Techstars. 1,557 different rounds are chosen for accelerator, 134 successful exits. Exits is the key here. An exit only means, did you take your idea, do something with it, and were able to exit and make money, or sell it off and make money? Was there a reasonable exit for some sort of profitability? That is what an exit is. It's not as much just doing it, it's can you exit the business. Now, there is a different one out there. This is called a tech generator. Remember how I said in an incubator, they basically throw all these little bitty companies in, all these little bitty ideas that they think they like, they throw them into an incubator and hope out of the dozen that maybe one hatches. Now, remember, any egg of any species is not going to hatch if it's not fertile, no matter if you take a long time to do it or no matter if you accelerate the process. If the egg is not fertile, meaning if there's not a reasonable idea that the business could be successful or have something tangible to exit with, it will never become a viable idea. So a technology generator is a very type of strategic partnership that helps stand the idea up. You actually partner with the company, not just become one of many, you become one of a focus, and they'll stand up the technology, get it started, and get the intellectual property. And by doing the intellectual property, it actually guarantees an exit. Now, there's estimated to be more than 1,000 business incubators in the United States. So one of the things that incubators versus the accelerator startup, with incubators basically say they have an 87% success rate for the company versus 44% if you do it on your own. Let's look at some exact quotes in the differences of these two. I want to give you some quotes from the industry of how the industry looks at these different types of entities. Let's look at the first one. Let's look at an incubator. Now, an incubator is a business support process that accelerates the successful development of startup and fledgling companies by providing entrepreneurs with a range of target services and resources. These services are usually developed or orchestrated by an incubator management and are both offered in the business incubator or through a network of its contracts. Now, people say, this is a direct quote, this is a quote from somebody who's been through it, is people say that if an entrepreneur wants to get bigger and faster or fail faster, well, this is maybe the way to do it, to help that startup achieve escape velocity. You're going along and you've got to know, is that business model that you're going to take 18 months to 2 years, is it valuable? Can it be turned into something good? The downside are that incubators, like it or not, are more focused on generating fees instead of creating value for the business. You know, what does that mean? Think about this, folks. If you're actually having to go into a place and sit, now there's one school of thought that structures what's best. Sit right there, do this structure, and that's what will make you successful. But if all that money goes into structure and not to your product development, that might end your business if you're just putting it all right back into the place you set. So it comes down to discipline. What do you think you can do? What is best for you? Now, if we were to look at, should we say, an accelerator, right? Version of what should be an accelerator. And accelerators are interested in achieving the same overall goal and helping to improve the odds of success for startups. But these programs go about achieving that goal in a very different way. Now, this is key. First and foremost, accelerators generally make an investment in the companies that are enrolled in their program. Okay, so they're going to help you with early stage and growth companies are going to help you with mentorship and education and financing, etc. However, this is where you also submit to an application process. And it's the same thing here. They put a little bit of money in your company, but then they're actually charging you that money back to the accelerator program. So what you have to ask yourself, let's just say, if it's $2 million to develop the technology for your idea, right? And somebody says, okay, we'll put $40,000 in and ramp you through real fast. If that $40,000 gets you nowhere, you haven't made a dent. You have to be very careful of this. Plus, those that put some money in end up valuing your business. Let's say somebody, I'll just use simple math. There's only 100% in any one deal. It's just like 100 pennies and $1. So if somebody comes in and says, well, I'm going to give you $10,000 to get your idea started, and I want half of the company. Well, what's the value of your company? Well, if they got half for $10 and you got the other half, it's now valued at $10, right? $10,000, let's say. You now only have a $20,000 company. So if you're just curious about how all this works, you need to dive deep. You need to understand the difference between an incubator, an accelerator, and a generator. Incubators are out there. It's kind of got an application process, right? Or the accelerators as well. Incubators you can pay your way into. Accelerators you might get accepted. Technology generators, the hardest to get into, but it guarantees an exit. Here's what I would leave you with. Nothing replaces good old networking. Great sites like LinkedIn. Now the walls of the world have come down. You don't have to try to go to that place that knows 4 or 5 guys or gals that have done this, when you can search them on the internet, drop them an email, tag them in social media, and ask them for help. Hey, can you look at what I'm doing? Key business executives that have been there and done that love to help other people become successful. So you don't only have to rely on these sources. You might just be able to rely on yourself. Take care. Bye-bye.